new lesson? Are you all having the textbooks with you? Okay. Children, by the end of this session, you will be able to achieve some learning objectives like you will understand the religious beliefs in the various periods, and you will be differentiate the religious practices of the hunter-gatherers and present day society, and you will be able to explain the common characteristics of Buddhism and Jainism. Hunter-gatherers. Children, already you have learnt about hunter-gatherers in your previous lessons. So, but we have learnt a very little about their religious beliefs, but we can study the religious beliefs and practices of these of present hunter-gatherers like Chenchus. You can see the picture is hunter-gatherers. They used to hunt the animals, and in those times they used to paint the animal on the caves, and it appears that painting and dance important parts of the religious lives of the hunter-gatherers. That means they used to paint the animal, whatever the animal they have hunted, that animal picture they used to draw on the cave walls. Sometimes they used to dress themselves as animals and wore masks and dance. You can see in this picture a drawing of the masked dance. Look at his headdress and the decorations on his arms and the staff in his hand. So, these hunter-gatherers believed that the forest and wild animals were sacred. So, they used to believe these forests and wild animals were sacred and they had to be worshipped. See in this picture, after hunting the animal, they are offering and worship to the animal. So, these hunter-gatherers, they used to feel that the animal should not be killed except when they needed, and they worshipped many animals too by drawing the pictures on the caves. You can see here a wild boar picture which was drawn on the cave wall. So, it is a wild boar which was found on the rocks of Bhimbetka. So, archaeological excavations. Children, what are archaeological excavations? Archaeological excavations means nothing but digging an area to be studied, and then they used to collect the remains or whatever the things they got there and to record the biological and cultural remains found under the ground. That is archaeological excavations. So, these archaeological excavations show that many early hunter-gatherers buried the dead along with some objects of use. Probably they believed that life continues even after the death. Hence, they made these arrangements for the afterlife of the dead persons. So, you can see in 12th century a book in Tamil named Periya Puranam describes the religious practices of these hunter-gatherers near Srikalahasti and narrates some famous story of Bhakta Kannappa, who acted as a priest and made some offerings of flowers and fruits to the idol. Even today, in this modern days, the Chenchu, the tribal people of Nallamala hills, worshipped forest goddess called Garila Maisamma, or in other words, she was also called as Gangamma, by making offerings to her and by dancing. You can see the picture of Chenchu's dance in this slide. They also worship Mallaya of Srisailam and Narasimha of Ahobilam. So, children, during these archaeological excavations, there are found some idols of Mother Goddess. You can see these worshipped as Mother Goddess or Mother Earth. They probably believed that they need the blessings of Mother Goddess for their crops and also for the cattle, so that they would be prospered. So, the early animal herders. What are animal herders? Herders means the people whose occupation is to herd or control the animals, that means rearing the livestock. Say for example shepherds. Shepherds, they rear the sheep. So these early herders of Deccan had left behind the ash mounds. So what are ash mounds? Ash mounds are nothing but a ritual burning remains by burning the wood, dung and animal matters. Some archaeological believe that these may be the remains of seasonal bonfire rituals, just as the people even today during Holi, Deepavali and Pongal festivals we do bonfire. So, in this picture you can see such one kind of ash mounds by burning the animals and some wood and dung. Even shepherds in India today are known by different names like Dhangar in Maharashtra, Kurubas in Karnataka, Kuruma, Golla and Yadavas in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh regions. And these shepherds worship special deities. Deities means gods. They worship special deities like Mallanna, Birappa, Renuka Ellamma, Maisamma, Pochamma, etc. in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka regions. Farmers also rear animals. So, both farmers and the shepherds worship the similar gods. On some occasions, they were organized in such animals like ram, cock were sacrificed like just an offering to the god. So, they usually pray for God, harvest, freedom from disease and welfare of the children also. You can see the animals engraved on the rocks in this picture. So, they usually pray for good harvest and freedom from disease and welfare of their children. So, you can see some of the animal drawings drawn on the rocks. Can you identify any animal in this picture? Okay. So, children, not only they worshipped some animals, they also worshipped even plants. You might be seeing that in some of your homes, your mother praying to Tulsi plant. Yes or no? Okay. See children, what is this tree? Peepal tree. Peepal, Tulsi. So, these are some of the sacred plants or trees which were also worshipped as deities. So, our people, our ancient people, they have been worshipped several trees like peepal, neem, jammi, banyan and plants like tulsi. See in this picture some pots. On these pots, the leaves of the peepal were painted, so that you can understand that they regard for the tree, the importance given to this tree. So, peepal leaves painted on pots indicate their great regard for these trees. So, religion in Indus Valley civilization. Children, you might have studied about Indus Valley civilization in your previous classes. Yes? So, even our country name India also came from this river Indus only. Yes? Okay. So, in those times, what kind of religious beliefs and practices were followed? Let us observe. Several cities emerged in the north and western parts of subcontinent in the plains of Indus river. This is also called as Harappa culture, because after Harappa, which was excavated first by the archaeologists by that name, for this culture is also known as Harappa culture. So, these cities which were inhabited by many kinds of craft persons. Craft persons means different kinds of professionals like potters, goldsmith and silversmith, jewelers and weavers, stone bead makers. So, many kinds of professions were there in that time. Among these ruins means which were found after excavations. So, among these ruins, baths, granaries, storehouses, roads, drains were found. But, however, until now no big temple was found. That means the people of Indus Valley civilization took out procession carrying banners in the honor of their gods during festive times. So, there were no big temples. Religion in the Indus Valley civilization. See children, here is a picture showing that male god of Harappan culture. Several mother goddess figures were also found and they held neem tree as sacred and worshipped some animals. And pictures of male gods were found of this period. Children, we have learnt about the religious practices of the Indus Valley civilization. Now, let us go to the Vedic period, the religious practices of Vedic period. Religion of the Vedas. The Vedas are the earliest surviving literature of the Indian subcontinent and the word Veda means knowledge. And there were mainly 4 Vedas, namely Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda and Atharvana Veda. Okay. And among these Rigveda is the oldest. Among these the Rigveda is the oldest and was composed by rishis consisting of hymns. Hymns means nothing but the religious song or poem to praise God. So, this Rigveda consists of hymns, prayers for welfare. Each Veda consists of hymns, praises a deity, prominently Agni, the god of fire, Indra, a warrior god, and Soma, a plant from which a special drink was prepared. So, during Vedic period, the people used to worship the elements of the nature, Agni, okay, in this way. So, the hymns were in praise of various gods and goddesses. So, hymns were recited mainly during the performance of yajnas and yagas or the rituals during offering were made to the fire. So, let us see one important hymn and try to see to whom they were praying. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Children, you might be remembering that this poem is recited even in your school assembly. Yes? Okay. Let us see the meaning of this prayer. The meaning is, from ignorance lead me in truth, from darkness lead me to light, from death lead me to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, children, what is this prayer says? They were praying for the immortality and also they were praying God to give them knowledge and bring them into light from the darkness. So, the Vedic people lived in small janas or tribal habitations, its leader. These tribes settled down in villages on the banks of river Ganga and Yamuna. So, during these times Vedic hymns were compiled. So, the Vedic people lived in small janas or tribal habitations. Jana means tribal habitations. You learnt about Janapadas. Okay. So, each jana having its own leader. These tribes settled down in villages on the banks of river Ganges and Yamuna. So, during these times only the Vedic hymns were compiled, especially Yajurveda and Atharvana Veda were compiled during Vedic period. Let us see now the emergence of society which took place in the Vedic period. It was during these times that the emergence of an idea that the society to be divided into varnas in the need of performing all these diverse functions. Okay, let us see the different varna system during the Vedic period. Firstly, society, the highest varna was Brahmins. These Brahmins were the priests, okay, and these priests conduct the sacrifices and recite the Vedas. Secondly, Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are the warriors or the administrators who rule over the kingdom and protect the people. And thirdly, Vaishyas, like merchants who tended the cattle till the fields, that means even agriculturists. Vaishyas were the agriculturists and merchants. Lastly, Sudras. Sudras were practiced of different professions or the occupations like even agriculture, carpentry, pottery, etc. You can see in this picture the map showing the settlement of Vedic people. So, near this Indus river, all the people started settling near this river Indus. So, thereafter they spread to other places. So, the people even started worshipping. So, worshipping the dead ancestors, the megaliths of the Deccan. Megalith means big stones. See, megaliths are the built with stone boulders. So, this practice of erecting megaliths began about 3000 years ago and was prevalent throughout the Deccan, that means South India region and even Northeast and Kashmir region. Our archaeologists, they found a circle of stone boulders or even in a single large stone was standing on the ground, indicating that there are the burials beneath. Burials means burying a dead person. They considered it important to worship the dead ancestors of the tribe by building such megalith memorials, or they even considered it important to worship the dead ancestors of the tribe by building such megalith memorials or burials. You can see the pictures of megaliths of Telangana region. See, near Nalgonda, terracotta sarcophagi, and there is a single stone standing near Warangal region, that is called near Devunigutta in Warangal district, and you can see one more megalith of Mehboob Nagar district. Okay. And here you can see there is a stone boulders of in circle, yes, stone circles, Repuni village of Warangal district. So, you can see children, here there is a stone circles megaliths. See, the people were standing inside the circle of the stones. Yes, so this is another kind of megalith found in Telangana region of Warangal district. So, during this period, people started thinking and new questions arised regarding these religious practices. Let us see what are they. The new questions in the age of Janapadas and cities. People of different backgrounds settled down together in cities, that is during Janapadas, and they learned about each other's religious practices and ideas and adapted them. So, a mixed religious culture was developed among them, and this raised new questions and seeking answers to them. So, one question was, what happens after death? So, here is a story of Nachketa. There is a story of Nachketa, a young boy, a teenage boy, who asked Yama. Actually, he was a son of a sage. So, he used to worship while his father was doing yajnas. So, offering sacrifices during performing the yajnas and yagas, he got a doubt. And then he asked his father many times, but he could not get the answer. So, father said to ask Yama. So, this boy so bravely went to Yama and he asked what happens after death. So, repeatedly he was asking him. So, Yama gave an answer that the body remains, but the soul is, soul means Atma, which is a permanent. So, after that this boy returns from Yama. So, this was a conversation of Nachketa, the young boy, with Yama. So, in this story finally he learnt that after death it is the Atma that remains, and the Atma is immortal. Immortal means there is no end. So, no death for Atma, that is soul. Truly only Atma is permanent in this world. So, finally satisfying with this answer, he returned to earth. So, this story is taken from the Kathopanishad. I repeat, this story is taken from book called Kathopanishad. So, what is that never will perish? This is the question many sages or munis or the rishis were searching for. For this purpose, they used to go to forests and Himalayas, and they used to perform tapasya for many years. You can see the ashrams in forest here. So, this kind of ashrams were, so the rishis, they used to go to this kind of ashrams and they meditate and pondered over several questions like this, what will that never perish, and people who lived in these ashrams were called rishis and munis. Children, so all the Rigveda, whatever the texts were there, they were in a very difficult Sanskrit language. All the people could not understand them. So, for this, later in a simple text came Upanishads. The views of these rishis and kings can be read in text called Upanishads. So, they believed that the understanding of Atma or Brahman, immortality, could be attained. They believed in order to know this Atma, one had to perform penance or tapasya. So, they used to in those days, these munis or rishis, they used to go to forest, an isolated place, and they used to perform a hard penance or tapasya to find out answers for many questions. Our next topic is, children, are you following? Okay, we will go to the next topic, Pari Vrajakas. These are nothing but the seekers of truth. That means who did not live permanently in any one place. I repeat, there were other seekers of truth who did not live permanently in any one place. They left their homes and wandered from village to village and forest to forest. So, among these Parivrajakas are also known as bhikshus, who mendicants, and those who begged. So, these Parivrajakas are the bhikshus who are the mendicants or those who begged, moving from one village to another, became popular. Among those, Vardhamana Mahavira, Gautama Buddha, Makhali Goshla and Ajita Kesh Kambalin became very famous. From these, let us see the biographies of two famous bhikshus or Parivrajakas. Vardhamana Mahavira, you might be heard this name, yes? Okay, Vardhamana Mahavira was born in Ganasanga, that means a republic of kingdom. He left his family and home at the age of 30 years and became a Parivrajaka, and he was seeking an answer to the question, how can we get rid of the cycle of birth and death in this world? For this question, he found the answer. His question was, how can one attain liberation, that means freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Finally, he found the answer after 12.5 years of meditation and hard penance, that is tapasya. So, finally, he concluded and he taught the people, when we inflict sorrow on other living things, were added to our load of sins. Secondly, he taught the people we should avoid hurting. Okay, Mahavira taught the people, when we inflict sorrow on other living beings, we add to our load of sins, and we should avoid hurting any living being, however small it is, and we can be freed our sins and become liberated by performing penance or tapasya. So, Vardhamana Mahavira kept wandering and to spread his teachings among the people. A large number of people began to follow his preaching, so Jainism was formed by Vardhamana Mahavira. So, children, let us see another Parivrajaka. You might be knowing him very famously. Yes? Gautama Buddha. Like Mahavira, Gautama Buddha too was born in a Ganasanga, and he found that people everywhere were miserable and in conflict with each other. So, he began to think, how can we get rid of this misery, this sadness? So, wherever he saw the people are having some problems, they are in sadness. So, how to overcome this? That was his question. So, Gautama Buddha's question was, why there is sorrow in this world and how can one attain freedom from sorrow? Gautama Buddha also left his family and home in search of these questions. He became a Pari Vrajaka and after years of penance and meditation arrived some answers to these questions. According to Gautama Buddha, sorrow is caused by excessive craving and desire. So, one can attain freedom from sorrow if we control our desires by living a balanced life. The teachings of Gautama Buddha is also known as Great Middle Path because one should avoid extremes. They should not have extreme penance or extreme pleasure, but instead follow a middle path. That is why it is known as Buddhism was also called as Great Middle Path, and the teachings of Buddha are known as Buddhism, and the teachings of Buddhism were compiled in 3 collections, Tripitikas, namely the teachings of Buddha and his followers have been compiled in 3 collections known as Tripitikas. They are Sutta Pitika, Abhidhamma Pitika and Vinaya Pitika. So, we have learnt about 2 Pari Vrajakas, Gautama Buddha and Mahavira. Yes? So, there are some similarities between these 2 religions. Let us see what are the similar characteristics of these 2 religions, Jainism and Buddhism. Firstly, these teachings were in Prakrit. That means previously in Vedas, these are very difficult language, even common people. So, the Rigveda, the slokas and whatever teachings were there, they were in very difficult Sanskrit language where common people could not understand them. But the teachings of Jainism and Buddhism were very simple language so that everyone could follow it. Secondly, they are meant for common people. Previously, whatever the teachings were there in Vedas, those were performed only by Brahmins or Kshatriyas, but not for the common people. But the teachings which are given by Mahavira and Buddha, they were for common people. And thirdly, they are easy to understand and follow. Fourthly, and there is no caste system. So, all are equal in this religion. So, children, with this we will conclude this lesson. Hope you all understood well. Let me ask you some questions and try to answer. What is hymn? Hymns were in praise of various gods. What is the meaning of megalith? Megaliths means big stones. Into how many varnas the society was divided during the Vedic period? 4. And lastly, name the teachings of Buddha were compiled into. Yes, it is Tripitikas. Here is an activity for you children. You have come across some people in this lesson and you have studied about different practices of religion and beliefs in this lesson. So, take one religion and make a report on it by collecting the pictures of such kind of religious practices. So, here is an activity. Draw or collect the pictures of different modes of worship and prepare a small booklet. So, here are some important questions for you and study the textbook thoroughly and try to answer them. Improve your learning. List some religious practices of the people of the hunter-gatherers and present day society. Why did people worship dead ancestors and kept boulders on the buried sites? And what are Tripitikas? For better understanding of the concepts, solve the worksheets given for you and please visit the official site of SIET. Okay children, with this we will conclude this chapter and let us meet with another lesson in the next session. Thank you.